Hello, friends. Welcome to Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday, November 6th, and we had a little bit of time here before members come in, so we wanted to drop in and see how everybody is doing this morning. We wanted to have our time this morning with you, our Let's Talk time. And so today we titled this one, um,
The art of letting go.
The Art of Letting Go to Create New Beginnings.
Hmm.
And so, a lot to talk about today. I know it's the day after Election Day, and there's feelings all over the place, all over the map.
Hmm.
Maybe your guy won, maybe your guy didn't. Wherever you are, just know that we love and support you at this time. And but today we really wanted to talk about letting go to create space for new beginnings, because regardless of where you are in your journey, whether it's the political journey or the healing journey or your health and wellness journey, it could be a career journey. Very often, we have to exercise the process of letting go. And that can be a very difficult thing to do, especially if you think that that's not what you shouldn't be doing. We kind of sometimes we get into that space where this is not what I wanted. This is not what I think is best for me. Um, and we feel like the stuff that's going on around us is happening to us. It's outside of our control. And so we want to talk about that today because, like, very often when we feel like that, there is something for us that we need to let go of. And in order to embrace a new beginning, we need to let go of something to create space for something new to come in. So,
Hmm.
um, do you have anything you want to share about
Yeah,
this? I do have a story I want to share. It's kind of a funny
sure.
story, but
I think you could go on with the story.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
So,
do have lots of things to share.
one of the I had an
Yeah.
opportunity
Mm. Mm.
to coach a client a number of years ago,
Mm.
and
Oh, I think I know which one. The
you
story,
do,
the
and so
furniture one.
yeah, and so she had this furniture. She was a mom. She was a single mom, and she had this furniture in her living room. It was like 30 years old, and her kids were grown and out of the house, and they were already starting their families. And the furniture was just really old and worn and stained, and uh, she had expressed the desire to me that one of her goals was to be able to purchase new furniture. And so before I finished coaching with her, she actually exercised that goal. She made that goal a realization, and she went out and she was so happy that she purchased this new furniture because she had been wanting to do it for a long time. But it came it came the day of to receive the new furniture to be delivered, and she suddenly started having doubts, and she was starting to freak out, and she started thinking about everything everything that took place on that furniture. Right?
Mm.
She cuddled with her kids on the furniture.
Mm.
She breastfed her kids on the furniture, right? She raised her family on that furniture. The Christmases that were spent celebrating the holidays on that furniture, and all of these, just this flood of memories and emotions, and suddenly she couldn't let go of the furniture. And so the delivery guys came, and they had the new furniture, and they were supposed to take the old, but she couldn't let it go. So now she has this room of furniture with the old furniture and the new furniture, and there's no place to move in the
Mm.
home. And and the guys go. And so the next day I had my coaching call with her, and she's kind of like beside herself because she doesn't know what to do. And she said, "Dom, she said, I feel like I did something stupid." And I'm like, "Well, what did you do?" She said, "Well, I bought this new furniture. I'm wondering, I don't think I should have bought it." I'm like, "But why? You were so happy." Like, this was during COVID, so it was going to take like a couple of months to receive the furniture. She said, "You're so happy to and excited to receive it, and now you have it. Like, why didn't you let them take the old, and she's expressed why.
Mm.
And she says, so now she says, now I can't, I bought the new, they won't take it back. I have the old and I can't let it go. And so now I'm living in this state. Now she's like living with all this chaos in her life because
Too much furniture.
there's just too much furniture. There's too much furniture for the small place she lived in, and a lot of this,
Mm.
it started creating some resistance in her experience, and it was tough because she was holding on to the old and trying to embrace the new, but she couldn't do that because she hadn't let the old fully go yet. And so she started getting angry with herself
Mm.
because of the situation that actually she created, and she created it because she was angry, not because the delivery men dropped the new furniture off at her house,
Not because they didn't take the older
and
furniture,
not,
she wants to keep
well,
it.
not because they didn't take it, right? This was
Mm.
her choosing,
Mm.
right? And sometimes we don't always see it that way, right? What we think of, well, I didn't choose this, right?
Mm.
This was chosen for me. Perhaps sometimes we don't have control over every aspect of our experience, but this is the aspect of, is this experience happening to me or for me? And if I say it's happening for me, it it changes the perspective because now you suddenly have to take a look at, like, well, where is the opportunity in this for me? Where is my growth opportunity? Where is my growth opportunity? And if we're angry about a situation, like she was kind of angry at herself, she wasn't seeing the growth opportunity because she was just in that stuck. Oh my God, what
Mm.
do I do? I I can't afford to have them come pick up the old now, and I'm stuck with the new, and I don't have anybody that can lift this furniture for me. Like, she was looking at all this stuff that she can't.
Mm.
I can't. So we worked through this, and it turned out that she was able to donate the furniture, the old furniture, and the people came to pick it up the next day. So that worked out really well in the end for her. It was a little bit of, she had to let go. There was an emotional letting go that she had to do,
Mm.
right? She had to work through. She had to work through the emotions. She had to allow herself to be angry. She had to forgive herself for what she's done. And she had to look forward to what was ahead, what she could learn from this experience so that she could then grow out of it. She didn't stay in this place of, like, I should have done this or I should have done that, because a lot of us get stuck there and we never really ever move past it. We stay in the state of, like, resentment, I guess is what it's called. So
Mm.
it was kind of an interesting experience for that client. And we often will do this to ourselves, right? We want something new. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't, but we're not fully embracing letting go of the old. And maybe there's something here that, if you're looking for something new, is there something that you need to let go of? Is there something you need to gain a different perspective about? Is there a where is the growth opportunity here for you? Maybe it is a perspective shift. Maybe you have to do something a little bit differently. Um, I'm kind of curious if you're experiencing this right now. Like, is there something that you need to let go of in your energy right now? Do you have a sense of anger or resentment or frustration? What is what is that? And where is the opportunity for you to grow,
Mm.
to become that better person, to grow?
Yeah, so oftentimes when we have an emotion that's like, let's say, anger, it's a lower level energy, and over time, if we keep having similar thoughts, we re-experience that emotion again and again. It's kind of re-imprinting, re-experiencing that emotion. So oftentimes when we have a thought and a feeling, that feeling runs through our body. I think they say it takes about like a minute and a half, and it can run right through you. Emotions, that energy in motion, and once you experience it, you can really at that point let it go. But if you continue to think about it over and over, you reinstill and re-experience that emotion. And so here we can sometimes find ourselves in a pattern. If you're in that thought feeling pattern, you can get kind of stuck in that cycle. And so then you start, becoming more angry. If you keep having feelings of anger, you become angry over
Hmm.
time. You keep doing it, you
Angrier.
become that. So you kind of have to pause and ask yourself, is that what you want to become? If you're in the state of constantly repeating and feeling anger by doing something over and over and over again, eventually that doing becomes a way of being. And so you have to ask yourself, is this serving you well? So sometimes we have to ask ourselves that, even in the relationships that we hold, especially the ones that are near and dear, uh, especially when it comes to close family and friends. And so if you're in a relationship and you find yourself getting worked up, triggered, um, usually, when you're getting triggered, there's an opportunity there. There's something being revealed about yourself
Hmm.
for healing. And so oftentimes when we get triggered by another person, we often
Or
want to,
growth.
yeah,
Sometimes it's not
mm-hmm,
healing. Sometimes it's a growth opportunity,
mm-hmm,
too.
yes. And so sometimes it's easy when we get angry, we want to blame. The
Mm.
quick thing is to go into a state of victimhood and blame someone else. They're the cause for my anger. So if you're angry at somebody else, you have to, I think, pause and ask yourself, why am I angry? If someone else asks you that question, you might get really defensive. But if you're asking yourself that question, it comes off very different. There's an opportunity for some self-examination as to why am I feeling, what is, triggering this? What is there? Is there a message here for me as to why I'm feeling angry in this particular situation? Because oftentimes, what our experience, our reality, is a reflection of our inner reality.
Right.
And so when we find ourselves, and there, plenty of people in any kind of situations, and certainly like even today, there may be people who may not be so happy, may be in a state of anger, and you kind of have to ask yourself these kinds of questions. Whatever situation, whether it's work, personal, um, is this serving you well? Um, and so, as Don was talking about with the emotions and working through it, there's this like emotion scale where in order to work through it you kind of have to work your way from one level to the next to the next. It's not you can't necessarily like do a
Yeah,
bypass.
you can't jump.
Yeah, jumping,
So you can't
yes.
go from anger to joy on a blip of a moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a process,
Mm-hmm.
right? To go from anger, you got to move through forgiveness
Mm-hmm.
and then compassion. And then usually when you get to that point, then you can get to the other levels of joy, love and joy and peace and the things that we all aspire to experience on a
At least we
regular
hope
basis.
everyone aspires to.
Well, yeah. So the path, right, to getting there is always the bridge. The path always
Mm-hmm.
starts with a level of forgiveness, and often that forgiveness, we think of forgiveness it's for the other person, but really it's for ourselves. And when we're in that state of anger, we often forget to forgive ourselves, and that's where it needs to start.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the change
Yes.
needs to begin. That's where the new beginning
Mm-hmm.
that you're looking for
Mm-hmm.
is found. It's
Yes.
not found outside of yourself when other people make changes. It really starts when you make that shift from within of forgiveness and look for the opportunity. All right, what's my opportunity in this? How do I grow with this, even if it is outside of my control? What is my growth opportunity here? How do I grow through this? How do I become a better person as opposed to becoming a more hateful person, a more divisive person, a more um, resistant kind of person, right, to the change that is happening around me? When we are able to find the opportunity, the growth opportunity, the healing opportunity, um, there's a better opportunity to move through it with more ease and
Mm-hmm.
grace.
Yes.
And I don't know about you,
Mm.
but I like ease and grace and peace.
Mm-hmm.
It when we find that within ourselves, we'll begin finding it outside of ourselves
Mm-hmm. I
more
see.
easily.
I see we have a couple people joining us online, so that's
Yes,
wonderful.
we do.
Hello, hello. We see you. Thank you for joining.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the couple people that have already joining. I guess one of the words that come to mind is the word surrender. I know that surrender has been the word for Kathy. And
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that too a little bit more recently. I was doing some reading, and this one short story mentioned surrender. And it came up, they had this nice acronym. I forget who it is attributed to, but they use the word STAR, STAR. Have you heard of STAR?
Yeah.
Oh, you have. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So S for surrender,
Mm-hmm.
T for trust, A for, I believe it's allow,
Mm-hmm.
kind of allow acceptance, and then the R for receive. And so perhaps in this
That's the
process,
hardest one
yes,
for most people.
yeah. So perhaps in this process of letting go and examining what things we might need to surrender, things that we don't need to be in control of, there's an element to need to trust. Perhaps in God, in the divine, in the universe, your higher self, whatever, your spirit, um, a sense of allowing
Mm.
and a sense of what is there to receive. There's something here for you, for
Mm-hmm.
you.
So many of us are wonderful givers
Mm-hmm.
and caretakers, but we're not very good receivers. Whether it's receiving love or receiving money, receiving peace,
Mm.
receiving help, um, all the different ways we can receive. Um, Usually we're taught, it's good to give, but it's not good to receive,
Mm.
right? But that's really not the case at all. When we fail to receive, we actually rob the opportunity of someone to experience the joy of giving. And so giving and receiving, there's a bi-directional energy to it. One can't exist without the other. So it's important that we live in balance with that. There are times where we need to be amazing givers, and there are times where we need to be amazing receivers.
Mm.
And we don't want to get out of balance with that. We want to try and stay in balance with that in the various different ways that we can provide by giving and receiving.
Yeah, kind of like the seasons. There may be
Yeah.
times in our life where you'll be more in the mode of receiving, and other times more in the mode of giving. But it's all about balance, and it's okay
Mm-hmm.
to go through those seasons. So we will often see that in our heart chakra. If the heart chakra is to the right, we tend to see people who are in the service industry, maybe they're nurses and so forth. They love to give, maybe even putting a lot of people before themselves. So there's maybe a natural tendency for those who are work in in that kind of field where they're serving other
Caregivers.
people, caregivers. Yes,
Caregivers.
their heart chakra tends to be more to the right, and so they'll be like that. And so in that case, oftentimes we kind of see like, all right, in order to bring that towards center, you need to maybe practice some self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Love yourself just as much as you love other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might be one way of bringing that, towards center. So when we think about the chakras being on kind of one side more versus the other side, kind of think of it in terms of polarity, where like on a battery, there's a positive and a negative side of a battery. One's, positive is not necessarily good and the negative is not necessarily bad. It just completes the circuit.
Right.
And so when the chakra goes towards one side versus the other side, it's not a judgment, that it's, you may be a better giver at this time in this moment. Um, it just means that there's something there for you. The chakra is oftentimes seeking out information to integrate, so you can come back to center. I kind of imagine it like you're at home and you're in need of food, let's say, and you go out go out foraging for some food and bring that back home.
Ice cream.
All right, sure, we'll go for ice cream. So you have a need to go away from home to get some ice cream, so you can bring it back home and
No truth
enjoy.
in this story, by the way.
Yeah. But sometimes, this idea of going to the other side, to the left, there's a turning inward, and so although you're not leaving home, it's not going outside of oneself. There's a turning inward, and so in that case, the chakra may go to the opposite side, and so oftentimes. The universe likes balance. So if you find yourself more on one side, there's probably a lesson to help bring you to the other side
Mm-hmm.
that you may experience until you get it.
Until you get it.
Yes.
Because if you don't get it, guess what happens?
keep repeating.
You get to have the experience all over again. So, how many of you have experienced something seemingly happening over and over again with different people? Like the same thing is happening with different people over and over again.
Mm.
Like, I think we've all had that, right?
Yeah,
There's something for you. The common denominator in all of these relationships is what?
probably you.
It's
Yeah.
you, me, you, like
Yeah.
you, right? It's you. So
Mm.
that's what needs to be looked at. That's what needs to, we need to get more curious
Mm.
about, right?
Mm.
What is going on within me that I keep having this experience over and over again? What am I not getting
Mm-hmm.
that I need to receive? What am I not, maybe I'm not open to seeing it. So therefore, I'm not seeing it,
Mm.
right? I'm insisting upon looking at something a certain way, or I'm tied to a specific outcome, and I'm insistent that something work out a specific way.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting point. What am I not seeing? And so that's the
Hmm.
interesting part. We have this perspective that we know what we know and we see what we see.
And we think that that's the right
And we
perspective.
think that's the truth.
That's the truth.
But there's always this bias. We're always looking through the
Hmm.
lens of our through our eyes, and
We live in a world of duality.
yes, and so
Hmm.
oftentimes until we are able to, look down upon the situation, remove ourselves from ourselves, can we maybe have a different perspective?
And when you say remove yourself from yourself, you mean like remove your beliefs and your feelings, like really kind of step out of all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of look at it as if you were kind of like operating from a clear slate. You're not influenced personally.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it, there's no personal influence
Mm-hmm.
or beliefs being cast upon it.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to almost like, I hate to use this word, but you're able to look at it like a judge that's pure,
Mm.
if you will,
Well, that's where it's really
and
tough
and
because if there's, let's say, a
and to
belief,
see things.
if there was a belief system involved that is part of that, it can be hard to let go of
Yeah.
a belief, to be able to view and have a different perspective. It's probably one of the more, tougher things if there's
Yeah.
strongly held beliefs
Mm.
involved. If the belief isn't so strong, it's easier to kind of, view things from a bird's eye perspective, and maybe 40 versus 100, like 100,000 foot level versus 20,000 foot level to see something.
But usually, that other perspective, like the
Mm-hmm.
way that I try and gain understanding, is
Mm-hmm.
like certainly there must be some benefit in that alternative perception. I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's some there's a reason why it's there,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a reason why I'm experiencing it.
Mm-hmm.
What is there for me to learn from that? What is the benefit that I can take from it? There's
Mm-hmm.
some kind of benefit that I'm not realizing.
I think part of it sometimes it's like understanding. Everyone wants to be heard and understood, and so sometimes when we, let's say, put ourselves in someone else's shoes, we have an opportunity to view it with a different perspective.
Well, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Is we have a tendency to put our we have a tendency to put ourselves in other people's shoes through our perspective.
Not really
And
their
it's
perspective.
not really wearing their shoes,
Yeah.
right? It's you're not, right? That's
Mm.
not wearing their shoes. It's kind of jamming your shoes on their feet,
Mm.
so to speak. And so we really want to be able to step back and gain perspective and understanding. It's understanding, right? And when we approach that through the act of love,
Mm.
right, and forgiveness, usually, more often than not, understanding begins to bubble to the top. Almost always. Now, it doesn't mean you have to agree with it.
Mhm.
Understanding something does not mean you agree with it. And I want to make that very, very clear.
Mm.
Okay? Understanding something does not mean you agree with it. It just means you understand a different perspective
Yeah.
of it. You can disagree with the other perspective, and because you disagree, you don't have to hate it. You don't have to be angry with it.
Mm.
You can still respect it, but disagree with it. And that's
Mhm.
perfectly okay,
Mhm.
right? And that's actually a healthy way to be in relationship with someone. Because to be honest, what two people are going to agree on everything?
Mm. I think that the other thing that's kind of related, but tied in with all this, sometimes when we're having certain feelings, let's say anger, sometimes we feel that there's a right and a wrong.
Yeah.
We want to oftentimes be right, And that's why if something's not going the way that we think it should, where we feel we're right, uh, there's can be feelings of anger if things aren't going what we think is right. And so I find this idea that um, there's a right and wrong to be very interesting, because usually when there's a right and wrong, there's a passing of some sort of judgment. And when you're moving from anger towards a place of towards love, love doesn't judge. It doesn't have a need to be right or wrong. So I think that's one of the things that I've learned for myself, over the past year, learning more about that and delving more deeper into that. That I don't need to be right. It's more important to love.
Mm.
So when you reach this place of like more heart-based consciousness, where you're in that spirit of love, you can let go of the need to be right.
Yep.
Love can really let go of anything. So
Mm-hmm.
when you talk about letting go and surrendering, it's really in that spirit of love that you're able to let go and surrender anything and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hmm.
And if you love yourself enough,
Yeah, let go of the anger.
let it go.
You
Because
don't need to
really,
hold
because
on to
that
that.
does that feel good? If it
Yeah,
feels good, then keep doing it,
that's right.
right? But like I don't like being in anger at all.
Mm.
I like my peace and my joy, and I love showing up for people and serving people in a powerful way. Like that's where I
But it
find my
doesn't mean you
joy.
don't have your moments.
Well, we all have our moments, right? Like we all get pissed off and angry, and there are stupid people in the world, right? That get us. It happens, right? This is
Yeah.
how we
I wouldn't
show
say,
up to the
well, I wouldn't
world,
use the word
and
stupid. So that's a
but
kind of a
in
little bit of a judgment there.
but in the moment, like if I'm being honest here,
Okay.
right? As a human being, in the moment, that's how we're
Well,
feeling, right? It's a
let's
judgment.
just say that people are funny.
Yeah, people are funny, right? And sometimes we ourselves are our biggest joke, all right?
Yes.
We have to learn how to laugh at
That's
ourselves.
right. Yeah.
And
Live,
that's
love, laugh.
this is part of the problem is that I find
Yeah.
we have a harder time laughing at ourselves
Mm.
as a society.
Yeah.
You know, I when I grew up, there were, I don't know, there was a lot more slapstick and stuff on TV. We
Mm.
were able to laugh at ourselves in silly kinds of ways, and
Mm.
there really isn't that anymore. People have a hard time
Yeah.
laughing at
Yeah.
themselves in silly kinds of ways. Like the child within is kind
Mm.
of being, like, I don't know, put in the closet and locked away,
Yeah.
right? It's time to kind of let that out
Well,
and play a little.
it's easy to judge ourselves. We can be most
Yeah,
critical of ourselves. I
yeah.
know I'm pretty critical of myself, that it can be hard to
I
laugh
think
at
we all
myself.
are. Yeah.
But yeah, if you could get to that place where you can laugh at yourself a little bit more, or laugh at the situations that we
Well,
find ourselves in.
it's way more fun.
Yeah, yeah,
It's more fun to laugh at yourself than to
yeah.
to be angry or upset. So,
And laughter is great. It can help
hmm,
release, surrendering of those emotions that you don't want to hold on to.
yep.
So yeah, laughter is wonderful to letting go
Hmm.
of, that in its own way. Yeah, so it has a place. I know in one of our EE Sundays, one of our workshops, we did some laughing, intentional. So you could do things consciously
That
with
was one of the
intention.
best Sunday workshops too.
Yeah, that was a year ago,
It
right?
was about a year
Yeah, yeah,
ago.
that was one on
Hmm.
from stress to zen, I think.
Jay
Yes.
just we brought up we were working through the different energy levels, and
Mm,
we used laughter
mm,
to shift energy, and Jay just started laughing, and the
mm,
next thing you know, the entire room
mm-hmm.
is laughing because it's laughter is
Contagious,
contagious,
yeah.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so next thing you know, it's like 5 minutes later in the room. I mean,
The
we were
energy.
all
Mm,
just hysterical
mm,
laughing, and the energy in the room was just like
mm-hmm.
way different than it was before that whole exercise,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very memorable. People
Mm-hmm.
still talk about it.
Yeah.
And so, like, laughter has a way of healing.
Yeah, and you don't need to be prompted. Like
No,
you
you
don't need
don't.
to be watching something
You
funny
can just
to
laugh.
laugh.
You can
Yeah.
just laugh at you. I'm always laughing at
Yes.
myself. He'll say to me,
Yeah.
"What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing." I'm just seeing the ridiculousness of life, and it
Mhm.
usually has something to do with me, right? I'm at the helm of it, and I'm
Wow.
seeing it.
Yeah, I've been noticing you've been laughing a lot lately.
So
What have you been doing?
I'm operating in joy.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm trying to live that high vibe life. You're laughing at me now.
We're laughing with you.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm on board with that. All
Yeah.
right.
Well,
So, is this resonating
yeah.
with any of you?
Mm.
You know, where are you at today? What's
Mm-hmm.
going on for you? I see Kathy. She wrote that she realized her job was a crunch for me.
Crutch.
Crutch. Sorry, crutch.
Mm-hmm.
Always having it
As a fallback.
as a fallback. And while
Mm.
that's great to have, it also is not building the muscle to just go at it
Mm.
without the crutch.
That's interesting. So
That's
this,
faith.
yeah,
Faith muscle.
yes, and there's more than just that. There's a certain level of sometimes, when you talk about surrender, if you can pick it back up so
Mm.
easily, you're like only just putting it down. But when you can no longer go back to it, then it's completely surrendered.
Yeah, someone actually
So,
said to me, "Oh, do you mean like burning the boats?"
yeah.
And it's not quite like burning the boats
Mm,
because burning the boats there's an energy associated with burning the boats
mm,
too, right?
yeah.
And there's like a negative kind of thread that runs through that. I rather just it's like no, the boats are there and by choice I'm choosing not to use it.
Yeah.
There's something very much more powerful in that, right? You're standing in your truth and you're being resolute.
Mm,
Like the boats are there. I could choose to use them, but
mm-hmm.
I'm choosing not.
Not to,
The boats
yes.
and the boats have no effect on me in that choice,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a very powerful stance. I don't need to burn the boats to stand in my choice.
Mm-hmm.
I am strong and powerful enough, despite the boats being there. I am moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very very powerful position. It's a stronger position than actually burning the boats.
The other thing, kind of related to this idea of building muscle, is sometimes when you're experiencing resistance with something, you can build strength. So when you talk about resistance training physically, like, there are different things that you might be experiencing emotionally, as, there's some level of resistance, there's a room for growth. And sometimes when that resistance feels great, there's actually even greater opportunity for growth. So that's like the brighter side of, when we're experiencing like resistance.
Right.
Resistance can be a positive thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be looked at as a negative.
Resistance is usually where the opportunity is waiting to be discovered,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's something there for you to discover that needs to be healed or you need to grow through. And
Mm-hmm.
so we don't want to fight the resistance because the more we fight it, the more what we resist persists.
Mm-hmm.
So the more we fight it, the more we're going to experience it. So the sooner we can face it and move through it and learn from it and then grow from it, the more ease and flow and joy and peace we get to
That's
experience.
right. There's a balance. It's kind of
Hmm.
embracing our other side, the side that we may not, the darker side of ourselves. Sometimes,
Sometimes.
sometimes it involves like some shadow
And
work.
sometimes it's the lighter side because there are
Mm-hmm.
people living in a lot of darkness. They're living in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
resentment and anger, and they have a hard time
Mm-hmm.
opening up to the lighter side,
Mm-hmm.
finding the joy, allowing themselves to be silly, operating in a place of love and all of that. So they just kind of sit like, and we know
like,
lots of
like
people
how
that
are they doing
like
that? Did you say?
like they need to take a dump.
Oh, okay. Oh
It's like,
God.
it's just
All right.
because they do.
Okay.
They're filled with shit, right?
Yeah.
Like they do,
Mm,
and they refuse to let it go. So
mm-hmm.
it's expressed in their energy.
Yeah. Actually, sometimes even physically. So, in some cases, when we
Yes.
do a scan, we'll see, like, all right, their
Yes.
colon's kind of like, in a state of not so optimal.
So we've always said energy doesn't lie.
Hmm.
We see it in the energy scans, right? And so in working at the center, we have a lot of people that come here with a lot of physical conditions, and sometimes they are
Physically caused, but
physically
sometimes
caused.
it's
But
non-physical.
very, very often, that's not the only
Mm,
cause. The
yeah.
physical condition started actually prior to that.
Mm.
Um, Usually, it's a mental, emotional, or spiritual. When I say spiritual,
Or combination.
I don't mean religious. I just mean what I mean is what I'm talking about is that you believe something and that you're living outside of your belief system. You're not integrity with what you believe. So therefore, spiritually, you are living in resistance,
Mm,
right? So that's what I'm talking about there.
mm.
Um,
And so sometimes we see these things that are non-physical show up in the physical realm. and then we'll see that on the energy scan. So those are
Mm-hmm.
always kind of interesting conversations
Mm-hmm.
to have people. It's like, especially when there isn't really a physical
Yeah.
cause for the experience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we invite people to come
Mhm.
to the system, right? They
Mhm.
usually come to the system to experience some type of improvement in their wellness, or they have a condition they're trying to heal. And we have wonderful experiences and testimonies by people coming into the center. The more they're able to create less resistance, less stress in their overall being, not just their physical, but in all four aspects of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, the quicker their healing occurs, the quicker they begin feeling really well, and
Mhm.
they get more pep in their step, um, mood elevations, all of that. And so we are always encouraging our members to really look at yourself from a holistic place, not
Mhm.
just the physical place where you have a symptom and you need a solution for the symptom. It's bigger than that. We want to step back and look at ourselves holistically,
All four
all
realms.
four realms,
Yeah,
and see where the opportunities may be.
it's all connected.
It is. Um,
Just checking out.
good, yeah. Reading the comment from Kathy
Oh yeah.
when she uses the BioWell energy scanner too, and she
Mhm.
says, "When I see that the colon is off, she asks them what they need to eliminate."
Mhm. Very
Valid question.
good question. Yeah.
Valid question.
Some.
Yep. So good stuff.
Yes.
So, do you guys have questions for us? We're gonna run because we have members coming in. But
Mm.
before we jump, do you guys have any questions for us about this that we can answer? Because we'd love to be able to help if there's any specific questions. You can put them in the comments. Well, I'll wait just a moment to see.
Mm.
And then if not, if you're watching the replay of this, feel free to share your thoughts, share your feelings in the comments. We want this to be a conversation, not just live, but also on the replays too, because we realize not everybody can watch the lives each week. So, do you have anything else to share
Um.
as we're waiting for them to?
Yeah. I guess in general, I think we just need to sometimes, pause and ask ourselves about the emotions that we feel,
Mm,
and are they serving you, and how can you elevate that?
mm.
And if you find yourself in a repeated experience, maybe you need to consider doing something different. And sometimes it's doing the exact opposite.
Amen to that.
So, yeah, so these
Yep.
days are quite interesting times that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, some people are happy, and some people may not be so happy. And regardless of, where you stand on that, I believe that there are no mistakes. All these things are happening for us for a reason, and that things may not be as they might seem. So always be open to the possibility that maybe there's something you don't know,
Mm.
and seek that out. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes the truth is somewhere
Mm-hmm.
out there, and we may not quite be seeing it, and
Very
that's okay.
often, yeah, very often we are believing in somebody else's truth.
Yeah,
A truth that somebody
that's
else is
right.
telling us
Mm-hmm.
is truth. But, if we take a little bit of time and really look not just within, but sometimes we have to dig a little bit for what
Mm-hmm.
the truth really is, we
Yes.
discover that the other person's truth is just that it's their truth, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not everybody else's truth. It's just one
Mm-hmm.
aspect, it's one perception of what they experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the truth is much, much bigger
Mm-hmm.
than
And
what is perceived to be.
and sometimes with doing due diligence, certain things may not be so easy to find.
That's right.
So your go-to search engine may not be the right search engine.
Mm-hmm.
So just be open to that possibility too. That you might need to use a different search engine to get to that
Mm-hmm.
information.
That's true.
And I'm seeing another question come up. Yeah, it's a great question to ask ourselves when we find out ourselves in different situations. Love the question. What do you want to create?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful question. And so when you think about, we have the ability to create. It's a wonderful gift. And so when
We
we,
were born to be powerful
mm-hmm,
creators,
yeah,
or we were born to be powerful to create destruction,
mm-hmm,
and that never really feels good, of course,
mm-hmm,
unless you're in anger,
yeah,
right? You have the short term burst of like, oh, that felt accomplishing, but
mm-hmm,
in the end, you you win the war but lose the relationship, right?
mm-hmm,
And you lose the relationship first with yourself. We're thinking we're losing the relationship with the others, but really you're losing the relationship with yourself because you're not living in a state of love,
mm-hmm,
right? So, um, there's an aspect there to explore for everybody.
All right. Uh, I think that's wonderful.
I
I think I will end
Yep,
on that note.
I think so. All right. This time has been great with you all. We
Hmm.
hope that this has served you well, and there's something of value here that you can relate to, and we look to serve you. Hopefully, you can check out the center. If not here, check out a center near you, and we look forward to serving you here or even online in the future. We love you. Bye, guys.